They say one mistake can ruin your life. Mine was closing my eyes for just 10 minutes. Except I didn't just fall asleep. I fell asleep in his bed. The man they called Lucky Luciano. The Italian devil in a suit who owned half of Manhattan's shadows. And when he found me there curled like an exhausted stray in silk sheets worth more than my annual salary, he didn't shoot me. He smiled. That was the beginning of the end. Or maybe the end of the beginning. You know that moment when you realize your life took a wrong turn, but you can't pinpoint exactly where? Mine was at 11 p.m. on a Friday, my feet screaming, my bank account whimpering, and my landlord's eviction notice taped to my apartment door for the 3rd time this month. I'm Nara Brown, 24, Manhattan resident by circumstance, not choice. The Roosevelt Hotel hired me 6 months ago because I showed up on time and didn't flinch when they explained the job description. Clean what drunk tourists destroy. Smile when they pretend you're invisible. Pretend you don't notice the things they leave behind. The boa constrictor was memorable. The lipstick-stained pillowcases? Routine. My degree in communications? Yeah, that's working out great. So there I was, Friday night, wearing the world's least glamorous uniform black dress that had seen better decades, sensible shoes that made my feet look like they belonged to someone's grandmother, and a name tag that got called Maria, Nancy, and once, memorably, that one. The hotel manager cornered me by the linen closet. Brown, room 707, presidential suite, double pay if you finish before midnight. My stomach did a cartwheel. Double pay meant I could pay rent and eat this week. The catch? Room 707 was a disaster zone. I could tell before I even opened the door the housekeeping crew had flagged it. Apparently, someone had thrown what the staff called a very passionate party. Translation: crystal glasses scattered like casualties, minibar emptied, and the carpet looked like it needed counseling. I pushed the cleaning cart down the hallway, mentally calculating. 45 minutes if I moved like a woman possessed. 45 minutes to reclaim my life for another week. Room 707 opened to a penthouse that looked like a fever dream of excess. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto dark wood and leather. The windows framed Manhattan like it was painted just for the view, and the smell leather, expensive cologne, something smoky, that felt almost dangerous. I got to work with the efficiency of someone who'd cleaned her way through 3 years of debt, vacuumed, scrubbed, straightened. My hands moved on autopilot while my brain calculated. Enough for rent, maybe some coffee that didn't taste like regret, possibly new socks. Then I saw the bed. Not a bed, a structure. A California king that looked like it had been imported from a palace. Silk sheets. Pillows that seemed to be mocking the concept of hard work. The kind of bed that made you understand why some people spent their lives climbing the wrong ladders to afford the right thread count. I was almost done. Almost. I should have left. Instead, I looked at the clock. 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes left. My calves were vibrating. My head was pounding. I hadn't eaten since a sad tuna sandwich at noon, and the universe was clearly testing whether I could remain vertical. I sat down. Just for a second. Just to let the room stop spinning. The sheets felt like clouds. I lay back. Just for a moment. That's when I made the mistake that would burn my old life to the ground. In my dreams, I was somewhere else. Somewhere warm. Somewhere my mother wasn't working double shifts and my father wasn't a ghost in a photograph. I was the girl I was supposed to be, not exhausted, not struggling, not curled up in a stranger's sheets like a stray looking for warmth. The dream was so vivid I could taste it. Then it shattered. A key card. The soft click of an expensive lock. The whisper of a door opening. My eyes snapped open. For about 3 seconds, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Ceiling. Chandelier. Not my apartment. Not anything that belonged to my life. Then reality hit like a fist. I sat up so fast the room tilted. My uniform was wrinkled. My name tag was somewhere in the sheets. And I was, oh God, I was lying on what could only be described as the bed of someone important. The important part came through the door. He moved like he owned the oxygen in the room. 32 years old, maybe. Italian features sharpened into something dangerous. His suit was dark, perfectly tailored, and probably cost more than my car payment, if I had a car. The shirt underneath was cream-colored silk, unbuttoned just enough that I could see the chain around his neck gold, catching the light like it was showing off. His eyes found me on the bed, and he stopped. For a moment, the world held its breath. I opened my mouth. Words tried to form, but they got stuck somewhere between my brain and my teeth. I It's not, I didn't. My accent, my panic, my complete inability to not sound like a cornered animal, it all came spilling out at once. He didn't move, didn't shout, didn't even look angry. He smiled. Slow. Sharp. The kind of smile that suggested he'd seen dead things look more alive than I did in that moment. "Well," he said, his voice smooth enough to pour over ice. "Looks like I finally found someone brave enough to sleep in my bed." The sarcasm was a blade. I scrambled off the mattress like it was on fire, my legs tangling in silk sheets, my shoes finding purchase on the hardwood floor. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, the shift was so long." And I sat down for just a second, and then, "You fell asleep," he finished, the amusement in his voice unmistakable. He walked to the bar and poured himself a drink whiskey, probably, knowing the type of room this was. His hands were steady, confident, the kind of hands that had never shaken over anything, not even a maid frozen in terror on his bed. "What's your name?" he asked without looking at me. "And Nada Brown." He finally turned, and I realized with a sinking certainty that I recognized him. Not from anywhere official. From the way people whispered in the lobby, the way the manager's hands shook when he assigned rooms on his floor, the way the air seemed to change when a car with tinted windows pulled up to the curb. "Lucky Luciano," he said, as if I wouldn't already know. "And Nara Brown, you just had the most expensive nap of your life." He said it like it was a compliment. I said nothing because there was nothing to say. I was already living my last day. Lucky didn't fire me. That's the part I couldn't stop thinking about as he leaned against the bar, whiskey in hand, watching me like I was the most interesting thing he'd seen all day. Or maybe all month. The expression on his face said neither. It said I was a puzzle. "You look terrified," he observed, tilting his glass slightly. "Should I be concerned about that?" "Yes," I blurted. No. I'm terrified, but not at you. I'm terrified of the situation, which you're a major part of, so technically." "You're rambling," he said. "I know." He took a step closer. I took a step back. He took another. My calves hit the bed, and I realized with horror that I was doing the world's slowest retreat right back onto the mattress. "Stop," he said, not unkindly. "You're making this more dramatic than it needs to be. I fell asleep in your bed, in a hotel, while working. I'm pretty sure I'm about to be fired, possibly arrested, and definitely deported to a life of shame and—" "You're not going to be fired." I blinked. "What?" He set down the whiskey glass on the side table with deliberate care. In the light, I could see the tattoos on his forearms, intricate designs that looked like they'd been done by someone who understood that art and violence weren't that different. His left hand bore a gold ring with a symbol I didn't recognize but instinctively feared. "You're not going to be fired," he repeated, "because you're not going to leave this room and tell anyone about this, and because I have a different use for you." The air in the room changed. "A different use?" I repeated weakly. "You work at this hotel, yes? Every day?" "Most days. I work shifts, I clean rooms, I pretend I don't exist." "Good." He moved past me, and I caught the scent of his cologne, something dark and expensive. "Tomorrow night, you're going to meet me in the lobby at 8. You're going to wear something that doesn't look like a maid's uniform, and you're going to smile like you actually want to be alive." I stared at him. "Are you asking me out? After I committed what should have been an unforgivable crime?" "I'm not asking." "Right, of course. The whole Mafia boss thing means questions are more like suggestions?" Something flickered across his face. For a second, I thought I'd gone too far, that my mouth had finally written a check my life couldn't cash. But then he did something worse than get angry. He laughed. It was a real laugh, not cruel, not fake. The kind that said he genuinely appreciated that I'd had the audacity to be sarcastic to a man who could make me disappear with a phone call. "You're funny, Nara Brown," he said. "I wasn't expecting that. I'm not actually trying to be funny." "Exactly." He moved toward the door, pausing with his hand on the frame. "Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Lobby. Don't be late, and don't tell anyone." "Don't tell anyone what, exactly?" He smiled that sharp smile again. "That you fell asleep in my bed. They'd wonder why you're still alive." Then he left, and I was alone in a penthouse that suddenly felt very, very small. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid. Well, not just because I was afraid. Mostly because my brain was a pinball machine of thoughts ricocheting between "you're going to die" and "wait, does this count as a date?" By the time 7:47 p.m. rolled around, I'd changed clothes 4 times. The first outfit screamed, "Maid trying to dress up," black dress from a clearance bin. The second was too trying. Red dress, too much lipstick, looked like I was auditioning for a role I didn't want. The third was safe, jeans, sweater, invisible. The fourth was what I landed on. Navy dress, simple, elegant enough to not embarrass myself but not so fancy that I looked like I'd borrowed it from my sister's wedding. Which I had, but that's beside the point. The lobby of the Roosevelt felt different when I wasn't pushing a cleaning cart. Suddenly I was aware of the marble floors, the gold fixtures, the other guests noticing me, or at least, noticing that I was nervous and didn't belong here as a guest. I stood near the fountain, trying to look like someone who frequented 5-star hotels regularly. At 7:59 he appeared. No fanfare, no dramatic entrance. He just walked in like he'd already owned the space, like the lobby had been waiting for him. Same suit, darker maybe. Same confidence. He scanned the crowd and found me immediately. I was struck, suddenly, by how precise his movements were. Nothing wasted. Everything intentional. "You came," he said as he approached. "You said 8 o'clock. People say a lot of things. Not everyone means them." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I pivoted to the only question burning in my chest. "Why did you really ask me to meet you?" He gestured toward the lobby exit. "Walk with me." We moved through Manhattan like characters in a movie I was too poor to be in. A limousine was waiting, of course it was. He opened the door for me, which was somehow more unsettling than if he'd let it slam in my face. Inside, the car smelled like leather and money. A driver nodded but said nothing. Privacy felt like a weapon. "You want to know why?" he said once the car was moving. "I think I deserve to know. I'm either about to be kidnapped or seduced, and I'd like to know which so I can panic appropriately." Again, that laugh. "Neither. I want to know why a girl with your face exhausted, hopeless, running on fumes still had the audacity to make a joke about falling asleep in my bed instead of begging for mercy." I turned to look at him. Really look at him. In the car's low light, he looked less like the devil, and more like a man who'd seen too much and done too much to ever go back to being anything else. I was terrified, I admitted. The sarcasm was just coping. Better to joke about dying than actually think about it. He nodded slowly, like I'd confirmed something he already knew. "What do you want your life to be, Nara?" The question caught me off guard. No one had asked me that in years, probably ever. "I want to not be afraid all the time," I said quietly. "I want to sleep without my shoulders touching my ears. I want to eat something that isn't microwaved. I want to exist, and not be invisible." He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he reached over and took my hand. His palm was warm, rough in places where I expected smooth. "Maybe you should stop being a maid," he said. "And do what? Be with me instead." The car kept moving through the glittering city, and I realized I'd just crossed some invisible line from which I could never come back. I quit the Roosevelt the next morning. Not dramatically, I just didn't show up for my shift and called to say I wouldn't be back. The manager tried to convince me to stay. "Brown, you're one of the reliable ones," which was somehow the saddest compliment I'd ever received. Reliable at being invisible. "Congratulations, Nara." By noon, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your apartment building. 2 p.m. Pack light." I stared at my phone like it might explode. Was I really about to get in a car with a man named Lucky Luciano and drive to nowhere? Was I really that desperate? Yes, I was. My apartment was a study in depressing minimalism. One bedroom that doubled as a kitchen area, a bathroom where the shower had given up on water pressure years ago. The kind of place where the Roaches had seniority and made the decisions about who stayed and who left. I packed a duffel bag with everything important. 2 pairs of jeans, 3 shirts, the one dress that wasn't navy, underwear, and a toothbrush. My entire life fit into something the size of a small dog. At 2 p.m. sharp, the black car pulled up. He was inside, waiting. Same suit, different tie. He looked like he never slept, which I'd later learn he mostly didn't. "Second thoughts?" he asked, as I slid into the seat beside him. "About 60,000 of them," I said. "But I'm still here, so apparently I'm putting them on mute." Smart girl. We drove for 40 minutes, leaving Manhattan behind for somewhere that looked less like survival and more like excess. Finally, The car stopped in front of a building that made my apartment building look like a palace by comparison. It was a penthouse in Tribeca, all glass and steel and windows that suggested the architects wanted the world to know someone important lived here. His penthouse. Inside it was exactly what I expected. Too nice. Too empty. Too much space filled with the kind of silence that happens when a person has given up on pretending to be normal. "This is your place," he said. "For now." "For now?" He turned to face me, and I noticed for the first time that his eyes were tired. Genuinely tired. The kind of tired that money couldn't fix. "I need to know if you can handle being around me," he said. "Not as a maid. As someone in my world. There are rules. There are things you can't ask. People you can't trust. Moments where it gets very dark very fast." I stepped closer. "Why do you care if I can handle it?" "Because," he said, and there was something almost vulnerable in his voice, "I'm tired of being around people who only see the money, the danger, the power, and I think you don't. I think you're a very dangerous man who fell asleep once and is now building an entire fantasy about saving me, when really, I'm just free labor and—" He kissed me. Not gentle, not soft. Like he was trying to prove something. Prove that beneath the exhaustion and the danger, there was still a person capable of wanting something that wasn't power or blood or revenge. When he pulled back, he was almost smiling. "Stay," he said. "Just for a week. If you hate it, you can leave." I already knew I wouldn't leave. The penthouse became my whole world. Not in a trapped way at least, not entirely, but in the way that gravity works. Everything I'd known before felt suddenly insignificant compared to the pull of this place, this man, this version of my life that I hadn't known existed until I fell asleep on silk sheets. Lucky had rules, unspoken mostly, but clear. Don't ask about his meetings. Don't answer the phone if it rang when he wasn't home. Don't go into the study. Don't speak to the men in black suits who came and went like shadows. Don't exist in the parts of his life that involved violence or blood or the kind of decisions that weighed on his shoulders like a physical thing. But he would take me everywhere else. 3 days after I arrived, he brought me to a club downtown. Not the kind of club where people went to dance and forget. The kind where forgetting wasn't allowed. It was all dark corners and expensive whiskey and men who looked like they'd traded their souls for the right to sit at certain tables. "Stay close," he said, his hand on the small of my back as we entered. The club pulsed with bass so deep I felt it in my sternum. Lights strobed red and black. The air tasted like smoke and danger and something else I couldn't name. We ascended to a private balcony, where a handful of men sat playing cards. They looked up as we approached. Their expressions shifted from casual to cautious when they saw him, from cautious to openly curious when they saw me. "This is Nara," he said simply, pulling out a chair for me. "She's with me." 2 words. With me. And suddenly I had a status, a designation, a reason to exist in a space where I should have been invisible. One of the men older, with scars that looked like they had stories, leaned forward. "Lucky. Since when do you bring—" "Since now," he said, and the conversation died like something with no will to live. He ordered champagne. Expensive, probably old. It tasted like victory tastes, if victory had a flavor. I sat beside him, hyper-aware of every movement, every second his hand wasn't touching me. The men played cards in a language I didn't understand. Not English, Italian, but a hybrid of both, mixed with numbers and names I recognized from the news. Money changed hands. Drinks were refilled. The night stretched on. At one point, he leaned over and whispered, "You're handling this better than most." "Most what?" I whispered back. "Most people I've brought here. Most women especially. They get scared. They cry. They realize they're in a room with men who've done things that can't be undone." "Are you trying to scare me?" "I'm trying to be honest." I turned to look at him, really look at him. In the bar's amber light, he looked less like a myth and more like a man living on the edge of something vast and dark. "I've been scared my entire life," I said. "Scared of bills, scared of the future, scared of being nobody. This is just a different kind of scared. At least with you, the fear comes with champagne." Something shifted in his expression. For a moment, the devil in a suit looked almost human. He took my hand under the table. Not possessive, protective. Like he was anchoring himself to something real while the world around us burned. "We should go," he said. We left before midnight. In the car, he didn't speak. He just held my hand and stared out the window at the Manhattan skyline. All those lights representing all those people with problems smaller than his, bigger than mine, and exactly as insignificant as everything becomes when the night gets late enough. Do you ever regret it? I asked. Being him? Every day, he said. For about 10 seconds. Then I remember the alternative, and I make peace with it again. What's the alternative? Being dead. The car moved through the city, carrying us toward whatever came next, another night, where I slept in silk sheets that cost more than my entire childhood, and he lay beside me, awake, listening to a phone that could ring at any moment and change everything. A week became 2 weeks. I stopped counting days, and started counting moments, the moment his hand found mine in a crowded room, the moment he looked at me like I was real, the moment he looked away like he was afraid of what might happen if he kept looking. We developed routines that felt almost domestic. Coffee at 7. He'd disappear for hours into meetings I wasn't allowed to ask about. I'd read in the library, the one room in the penthouse that felt like it had soul, surrounded by books that looked like they'd been read, not just displayed. He'd come home at night, sometimes with blood on his knuckles, sometimes with that tired look that said he'd been somewhere, doing something that cost him pieces of himself. And sometimes, he couldn't sleep. Those nights were the realest. It was 3 in the morning when I found him on the rooftop terrace for the first time. The city spread below us like something alive and breathing, all those lights representing all those people who didn't know what it felt like to exist in the margins between legal and impossible. Can't sleep? I asked, wrapping the silk robe around myself against the October chill. Haven't slept well in 8 years, he said. Not since. He stopped. Whatever he was about to say died before it could be born. I moved to stand beside him at the railing. Below us, Manhattan glittered. The Hudson River looked like liquid silver. It was beautiful in a way that only cities are beautiful, built on pain and ambition and the bodies of people who tried and failed. I haven't slept peacefully in longer than that, I said. I used to sleep with the light on, because the dark felt like it was hunting me. Then I got used to the dark. Then the light started to scare me because it meant I had to see my own life. He turned to look at me. How are you so honest? Doesn't it terrify you? All the time, I said. But I figured if I'm going to die in the margins, I might as well be honest about it. No one dies in the margins around me, he said, and it sounded like a promise. I make sure of it. Because I remind you of someone. The words came out before I could stop them. It was the thing I'd been avoiding asking, the thing that lived underneath every moment. Why me? Why a hotel maid? Why someone so ordinary when he could have anyone? His jaw tightened. What makes you say that? Because sometimes you look at me and you see someone else, someone you've lost, someone you can't get back, and I'm just the ghost you're trying to keep alive. He didn't deny it. For a long moment, he just stared out at the city, his hands gripping the railing like he was trying to hold on to something that kept slipping away. Cold hands. I'd noticed it before. He always had cold hands, even when he was angry, even when he was burning. My sister, he finally said. She was like you. Poor. Tired. She looked at me like she thought I could save her. I told her I could. That once I got enough power, enough money, enough of the right connections, I could make her life different, better. He stopped. The silence was heavy with things unsaid. What happened? I asked gently. I got the power, the money, all of it. And she got caught in crossfire meant for me. Wrong place, wrong time. Wrong brother who couldn't protect her even though that's all I'd ever wanted to do. I stepped closer to him. Slowly, like he might shatter if I moved too fast. I took his cold hands in mine. They were shaking something I'd never seen him do before. This man who moved through violence, like most people moved through Tuesday. I'm not her, I said. I know. But you want me to be. No, he said, and his voice broke slightly. I want you to stay being you. I want you to stay alive. I want to know if that's even possible in a world like mine. The city spread around us, indifferent to this moment. Indifferent to the man who'd built an empire in shadows, and the girl he'd rescued from cleaning other people's messes. Indifferent to the question neither of us could answer. Could something real grow in a garden of lies and violence? He pulled me close. Not to kiss me, just to hold me. And I realized that sometimes the most dangerous thing a man can do isn't violence. It's trust someone with the parts of himself he's been hiding. Stay, he whispered into my hair. Please stay. I'm not going anywhere, I said. And I meant it. Even though I should have been terrified. Even though I should have run. Even though every logical part of my brain was screaming that this was how girls like me disappeared slowly at first. then all at once, I stayed. We stood on the roof of his penthouse, looking out at Manhattan, while the night wrapped around us like something alive. His hand found mine again, not cold this time, warm, real. Below us, the city kept spinning. Above us, the stars existed in a sky too polluted to really see them. And between us, something was growing, something that looked like love but felt like danger, felt like freedom, felt like the kind of mistake that changes everything. 2 weeks into living at the penthouse, I tried to leave. Not dramatically, not with a suitcase and a final note, just quietly, thinking if I moved carefully enough, the universe wouldn't notice I was taking my life back. I got as far as the elevator. "Where are you going?" His voice came from behind me, soft as silk but sharp as glass. I froze, didn't turn around. "Out. I need air. I need space. I need to remember what it felt like to be a person instead of a, whatever this is." "This is protection," he said. I turned to face him. He was leaning against the doorframe of the penthouse like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. Like he'd always known I would try to run. "Protection from what? Your enemies?" "Because from what I can see, your enemies are the only people who know where I am. Everyone else thinks I've disappeared." "You have," he said. "You've disappeared from your old life. There's no going back now." "That's not comforting, Lucky, that's terrifying." He moved closer. I didn't retreat this time. There was no point. "If you leave this penthouse, if you go back to being invisible in that city, they will find you. Do you understand? The men I do business with, the men I oppose, they'll find you and they'll use you, and I won't be able to protect you anymore. So I'm a prisoner. You're under my protection." "Same thing," I said. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, a gesture so intimate it hurt. "Not the same. A prisoner resents her cage. You," he paused. "I don't think you want to leave." I hated that he was right. I hated more that the alternative was terrifying. Go back to my apartment, my job, my life of quiet desperation. Die slowly instead of all at once. Choose a slower kind of suffocation. "This is insane," I said. "Yes. You're insane. Probably. And I should run." "You should," he agreed. "But you won't." He was right. I pressed the button to close the elevator doors and walked back into the penthouse. He didn't celebrate or gloat. He just took my hand and pulled me back into the world he'd built. And I let him because staying felt less like surrender and more like inevitability. The penthouse had staff I rarely saw. A housekeeper named Rosa, a chef named Marco, security guards who existed more as shadows than men. They moved through the space like ghosts, careful never to disturb Lucky's world or acknowledge mine. But Rosa talked. I found her in the kitchen one afternoon, while Lucky was in his study with a client. She was chopping vegetables with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd fed powerful people for decades. When she saw me, she smiled, the kind of smile that said she saw me, really saw me. "You're brave," she said, continuing to chop. "I'm reckless," I corrected. "Same thing when you're with him." She set down the knife. "You know about his sister?" My hands went very still. "A little." "Valentina," Rosa said, and something in her voice broke slightly. "She was like you. Poor, beautiful. She didn't understand the world she was in. Mr. Luciano, he tried to protect her anyway. He tried so hard." "What happened?" Rosa was quiet for a long moment. "A man came to me one day. He said Valentina was my responsibility now, that I was to care for her like my own daughter. I did. She became my daughter. And then..." She made a gesture like erasure. "Crossfire. Wrong place. Wrong time." She was 23. I felt something crack inside my chest. That was 7 years ago. He hasn't been the same since. He tried to get revenge, lost half his family doing it, and then he stopped. He stopped loving. Stopped believing in anything except power and control. She looked at me directly then. "Until you." "I'm not Valentina," I said quietly. "I know," Rosa said. "But he doesn't. Not yet. And that's dangerous, Bambina. For both of you. Because either he'll realize you're your own person and it might break him again, or he'll keep pretending, and it'll break you instead." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because he needs someone to save him," she said. "And I think that someone might be you. If you're strong enough." The dress arrived on a Monday. It was hanging in the closet when I woke, a midnight blue gown that looked like it had been tailored for someone with my exact measurements. Because it had been. Lucky didn't do things by accident. Try it on, he said when I emerged from the bedroom. This is designer. This is expensive. Yes. Why? Because we're going to a gala tonight. And you're going to look like you belong in a world of money and power, not like you're still cleaning hotel rooms in your head. The dress fit like a second skin. It was elegant, without being desperate, sexy without being obvious. The kind of dress that said, I'm here, I'm worth your attention, I know what I'm doing. I didn't know what I was doing. The gala was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. A charity event for people who had too much money and needed to feel like it wasn't corrupting their souls. Crystal chandeliers. Waiters in white gloves. Conversations that happened in low voices in corner spaces where everything was negotiable and nothing was honest. Lucky kept his hand on the small of my back all night, introducing me to people without explaining who I was. That was the beauty of it. The mystery made me more interesting than the truth would have been. A woman approached us near the bar. She was older, dripping in pearls that looked like they'd been worn through centuries of New York society. Lucky, she said, kissing his cheek. Who is this delicious creature? Nara, he said simply. How exotic. Are you an artist? I clean hotel rooms, I said. The woman froze. Lucky's hand tensed on my back. The woman laughed a brittle, shocked sound. Oh my God, you're joking. You must be joking. Not really, I said. Do I look like I'm joking? Something shifted in the woman's expression. She became more interested, not less. Lucky Luciano slumming with the help. How delightfully scandalous. After she left, Lucky pulled me toward the coat check. That was dangerous, he said in the car on the way home. Honesty? In a room full of people who trade in lies, honesty is a weapon. You just fired it at a woman with connections to the FBI. Should I apologize? No, it was the smartest thing that happened all night. He turned to look at me. See, you're learning. The world of old money and old power doesn't reward truth. It rewards the people who tell the truth like it's still a lie. You did that perfectly. I thought you said I was reckless. You are. That's what makes you valuable. There was a party at his penthouse the following Friday. Not a charity gala. A real party, the kind where deals happened in hallway corners, and women wore red lipstick like armor, and men settled disputes with whispers instead of bullets. I tried to hide in the library, but Lucky found me. Dance with me, he said. I don't dance. Exactly why you need to. He pulled me onto the terrace where a band was playing something slow and sultry. The New York skyline stretched around us. Strings of lights reflected off the Hudson River. It was the kind of moment that belonged in a movie where the heroine doesn't die. His hand found the small of my back. Mine went to his shoulder. We moved together like we'd been doing this for years, like our bodies already knew the language of each other. You're thinking too hard, he said. You're dancing like you're trying to prove something, aren't you? I looked up at him. In the firelight from the terrace heaters, his face was all shadows and sharp edges. The man who'd found me sleeping in his bed seemed to have aged years in only weeks. Prove what? I asked. That you can exist in my world without disappearing. We spun slowly. Around us, people were watching. I could feel their eyes like heat on my skin. The whispers that would follow. Who is she? Where did he find her? How long until she's dead? One man made his way to us, older, scarred, the kind of person who'd seen too many wars. Lucky, he said, interrupting the dance. She's beautiful. Almost like, don't, Lucky said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Don't even start. I'm just saying she looks like Valentina. The eyes, the mouth. It's uncanny. You're not usually sentimental, my friend. Lucky's jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he might do something violent. Instead, he took my hand, and we left the party mid-dance, leaving the man standing alone on the terrace. In the elevator, I finally asked, Am I just a replacement? No, he said, and he sounded angry. You're not. Don't let anyone make you believe that. But we both knew it wasn't entirely true. It happened on a Wednesday night, at 11:47 p.m. Lucky was on the phone in his study. I was reading in the library when the first shot came through the window. The glass didn't shatter like in movies. It exploded. Shards flew like diamonds, cutting and sharp, and absolutely real. The sound came after gunfire, rapid and merciless. I dropped to the floor on instinct, crawling toward the doorway. Lucky, I screamed. He emerged from the study, gun already drawn. His expression shifted from calm businessman to something else entirely, something feral and ready for war. Penthouse? I heard him shout into a phone. Breach Protocol Delta. Secure the south exit. Another volley of shots. The floor-to-ceiling windows on the west side imploded. The penthouse that had felt like a palace became a war zone. Crystal glasses flew. Paintings crashed. The world was breaking apart, and I was in the middle of it. Lucky grabbed me and pulled me behind the marble kitchen island as bullets cracked through the space where I'd been standing moments before. "How many?" he shouted to someone I couldn't see. "6 on the terrace. More coming up the east stairwell." A voice through an earpiece. Professional. Calm. Like this happened regularly. Because it did. It happened regularly, and I'd been living in his world long enough to understand that this was part of the price. This was what it meant to exist in the margins between power and survival. Lucky positioned me against the wall. His hand was steady when he took mine. "Listen to me, there's a panic room. Behind the painting in the bedroom. You go. You lock the door. You don't come out until the all clear." "What about you?" "I'm fine. I've done this before." "You're going to kill people?" "Yes," he said, and there was no emotion in it. "That's what they're here for. Now go." I didn't want to leave him. But running seemed smarter than dying, so I ran. Crawled through the penthouse while gunfire erupted all around me. The bedroom felt impossibly far away. I could hear him fighting the sharp crack of his gun, the methodical pace of someone who'd trained for exactly this scenario. I found the painting. A Renaissance landscape worth more than my entire existence. I pulled it away and found the door. Security keypad. I didn't know the code. Nara. His voice through an earpiece I didn't know I was wearing. "Code is 0717. That's my sister's birthday." I punched it in. The door opened. I stepped into a space that looked like a bunker-reinforced walls. Supplies. A monitoring system showing feeds of the penthouse in chaos. I watched on the screens as he moved through rooms like death incarnate. No hesitation. No mercy. A man doing what he'd been built to do. One attacker got close. Too close. Lucky didn't shoot. He moved with precision I'd never seen before, and the man dropped. When I understood what had happened, that I'd just watched him kill someone in hand-to-hand combat, my stomach turned. This was the real him. Not the man who held my hand on rooftops. Not the man who danced with me under firelight. This was the version of himself he'd been trying to hide. On the monitors, I watched him move through his penthouse like a soldier in enemy territory. Because that's what it was. This was his war. And I'd stepped directly into the center of it. The panic room was soundproofed, but the monitors showed everything. I watched as Lucky moved through his own home like it was a battlefield. I watched as he fought 3 men in the hallway. I watched as he moved faster than I knew a human could move, and I understood that this man I'd been falling asleep beside was something far more dangerous than I'd ever allowed myself to fully comprehend. An attacker got past his first line of defense. Made it to the bedroom, toward my door. Lucky cut him off. Their fight was brief and absolutely brutal. When it was over, the man wasn't moving. And Lucky's shirt was torn. There was blood, some of it his, most of it not. "Nara." His voice crackled through the earpiece. "Status?" "I'm safe. Are you?" "I'm fine. Casualty count is 4 tangos down. 2 more retreating. We're securing the perimeter now." "Tangos?" I said stupidly. "Bad guys," someone else explained, a woman's voice, professional and detached. "You good in there, Civvy?" "He just watched 4 people get killed," I said to the earpiece. "That's kind of the job," the woman said. "Get used to it." I didn't want to get used to it. 20 minutes later, the all clear sounded. I emerged from the panic room to find the penthouse transformed into something that looked like a crime scene because it was a crime scene. Security was removing bodies. Someone was cleaning glass. The furniture was overturned. There were bullet holes in the walls, in the paintings, in the careful aesthetics Lucky had built. And Lucky stood in the center of it all, covered in blood, looking more alive than I'd ever seen him. "You're bleeding," I said. He looked down like he was surprised by this information. "Knife wound, not deep. You need medical attention. I need to know you're safe." I moved closer and lifted his shirt. The wound was along his rib cage, jagged, bleeding, definitely requiring more than first aid. I pulled him to the bathroom and started cleaning it. His hands were shaking slightly. Or maybe mine were. It was hard to tell anymore where my fear ended and his adrenaline began. "This is what I am," he said while I worked. "This is the part of me I've been trying to hide from you. The part that kills without hesitation. The part that turns his own home into a war zone without blinking." "I know," I said. "Do you? Because if you stay, you have to accept this. You have to accept that there will be more nights like this, that you'll be running to a panic room while I'm deciding whether to put a bullet in someone's head or a knife in their ribs." I didn't respond. I just finished cleaning the wound and wrapped it carefully. "My sister," he continued, "she couldn't accept it. She tried. But every attack, every moment of violence, it broke her down a little more. She became a liability, and then she became dead." I looked up at him. "I'm not your sister." "I know, I'm starting to understand that." After the attack, I couldn't sleep. Neither could he, but that wasn't unusual. We sat on the terrace with whiskey and cigarettes, looking out at a Manhattan that continued to glitter like nothing had changed. Down there, people were going about their lives, unaware that violence had just torn through a penthouse above their heads. Lucky's shirt was off. I could see the new scar from the knife wound, red and raw, but I could also see the older scars. Many, many older scars. Gunshot wounds, knife work, burns that looked like they'd been deliberate. His body was a roadmap of every war he'd fought, every battle he'd won, every price he'd paid. I traced one scar on his shoulder, long, precise, purposeful. "Training," he said. "When I was younger, we had to prove we could endure pain, that we understood what the job required." "Who's we?" I asked. "The organization, the family business, if you want to be quaint about it. My father ran it before me. His father before him. We don't get to choose whether we want in. We're born into it." I traced another scar. "How old were you?" "When I got this one." 14. "Jesus. That's not even close to the worst one." He pointed to a scar across his hip. "That one's from when I was 17. Rival family sent a message. It was very pointed. How did you survive?" "Rage," he said. "Pure, unadulterated rage at people who thought they could hurt me and get away with it. I tracked them down. Took me 3 months. By the time I was done, there wasn't enough left of them to identify." He said it casually, like he was discussing weather. "And you were 17, I said. I was old for my age. I poured more whiskey. We drank in silence for a while, watching the city pretend nothing was happening in its upper echelons. "Your sister," I said carefully. "Did she have scars?" "Emotional ones. She wasn't built for this life. She was gentle, sweet. She wanted to believe in love and hope, and things that don't exist in my world." "Things like what?" "Like redemption," he said. "Like the possibility that someone can build something good without blood underneath. She believed that, and I loved her for it, and I got her killed for it." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just sat with him, tracing scars like they were a language I was learning to speak. Outside, the city kept turning. Inside, 2 people who shouldn't have found each other sat in the wreckage of an attack and tried to pretend they weren't already lost. 3 days after the attack, I found him in the study. He was on the phone, but he hung up when I entered. The look on his face was something I'd never seen before. Controlled anger mixed with something almost like fear. "We need to talk," he said. My stomach dropped. Those were the words that preceded endings. "You're a weak spot," he continued, pacing like a caged animal. "You know that, right? The moment you became part of my life, I became vulnerable. And vulnerability in my world gets you killed. So what are you saying? That I need to leave?" "No," he said, and the anger intensified. "That's what makes this worse. I don't want you to leave. I need you to leave. There's a difference." He stopped pacing and faced me directly. "I've spent 8 years building walls. 8 years making sure nothing could touch me because feeling things got my sister killed. And then you fell asleep in my bed, and something broke. Something I'd spent years putting back together just broke. Lucky. I find myself thinking about you during meetings. I lose focus. I lose control. During that attack, instead of securing the perimeter first, I kept thinking about where you were, if you were safe. That's not me. That's not who I am. That's not who I can afford to be. So what do you want from me? I want you to understand what this means. If you stay, I'm going to keep being irresponsible because you exist, and irresponsibility gets people killed in my world. So either you leave, and I go back to being the monster I was before, or you stay, and we both accept that loving you is slowly destroying me." He said the word loving, just dropped it into the conversation like it had been inevitable all along. "I didn't ask you to love me," I said. "I know. That's what makes it so dangerous. It just happened, and now I can't turn it off." He poured whiskey with shaking hands. Actually shaking. The powerful, controlled man who'd fought 3 people in his own home was shaking because of me. "Choose," he said. Stay, and destroy me slowly, or go and let me be the monster I need to be to survive. I didn't have an answer, because both options meant loss. For both of us. We didn't discuss his confession. Instead, we moved through the penthouse, like people tiptoeing around a bomb that might detonate at any moment. He'd go into his study for meetings and emerge with the look of someone who'd made decisions that couldn't be unmade. I'd read in the library and pretend I wasn't listening to his phone conversations through the walls. But the night after the confession, something shifted. He came to me in the bedroom. The windows had been repaired, but you could still see the slight discoloration where bullets had punched through reinforced glass. Outside, the city glittered like nothing had changed. "Come here," he said. I did, because I always did. He pulled me onto the balcony, and the city spread before us, millions of people living their lives without any idea of the war happening in the sky above them. "I need to ask you something," he said, and his voice was different, softer, "and I need you to answer honestly, okay? Are you staying because you love me, or are you staying because you're afraid of leaving?" It was the question I'd been avoiding since the moment I climbed into his car outside my apartment building. "Both," I said. "I'm staying because part of me is terrified to be without you, and part of me is terrified to be with you. Those two fears have become the same fear, and I can't separate them anymore." He reached up and cupped my face in his hands. His palms were warm, real, the hands of a man who'd just killed people 3 days ago, now holding me like I was something precious. "Don't fall in love with me," he whispered. Too late. He kissed me. It was different from before, less about passion, more about ownership. His mouth was urgent against mine, tasting like whiskey and cigarettes and the kind of desperation that comes from knowing something is both inevitable and impossible. My hands found his shoulders. For a moment, everything else disappeared. The violence, the fear, the questions about whether I was a replacement for his dead sister. For one moment, there was just us and the city glittering below, and the sense that something true was happening even though everything about it was wrong. Then he pulled away. "This is a mistake," he said, and his eyes were already closing, pulling back, building walls. "We're a mistake," I agreed. "The worst kind. Completely disastrous. And still inevitable." He walked back inside, leaving me on the balcony with the city spread beneath me and the taste of him still on my mouth. A kiss that felt like an ending before the beginning had barely started. I went to the Roosevelt the next day, not to clean, just to remember what my life had been like before. The lobby was the same glass and marble and the soft jazz that seemed to exist in a permanent loop. But I was different. I moved through it, like I owned part of it now, because I did. I owned a piece of a different world. A man approached me near the front desk. He was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. "Nara Brown?" he said. I didn't know him. "Yes. My name is Daniel Rossi. I knew Valentina Luciano." Everything stopped. "I'm sorry," I said. "Valentina, Lucky's sister. You've heard of her, I assume? How do you know who I am?" "Because you're all over Lucky's penthouse. Because you've become important to him. And because..." He pulled out his phone and showed me a photograph. It was a girl. Young, maybe 22 or 23, dark hair, high cheekbones, the same shape of face, the same way of holding her head slightly tilted. She looked exactly like me. No, not exactly. Close enough that if I saw us side by side, I'd assume we were sisters. Same eyes, same mouth, same something indefinable that made us look like we came from the same place, the same pain. "That's Valentina," the man said. "She died 7 years ago, and you're the first person Lucky has looked at since her death." My hands were shaking. "I don't understand." "He's using you," Daniel said gently. "Maybe he doesn't realize it. Maybe he's convinced himself that he's fallen in love with you. But the truth is, he's trying to bring her back. And the longer you stay, the more dangerous that becomes." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I loved Valentina," he said. "And I don't want to watch you die trying to fill a ghost's shoes." He pressed the phone photo toward me. I took it with numb fingers. "Leave," Daniel said. "While you still can. Before he fully replaces her with you. Before he realizes you're not her and gets rid of you like every other reminder of his failure." Then he was gone, melting back into the lobby like he'd never existed. I stood holding a phone with a photograph of a dead girl who looked like me, and I understood that nothing in my life would ever be the same again. I didn't wait for him to come home. I went to his study, and I waited, the photo clutched in my hand like evidence. When he arrived, the The first thing he noticed was my face. "What happened?" he said immediately. "Alert, dangerous, ready for war." I showed him the photo. For a moment, nothing happened. He just stared at the image of his dead sister like she was going to climb out of the screen and save him from whatever was coming next. "Where did you get this?" His voice was very quiet. "A man named Daniel Rossi. He found me at the Roosevelt. He told me about Valentina. Daniel has no right. He had every right." I threw the phone on the desk. "He's telling me what you've been too much of a coward to admit. I look like her. I'm a replacement. I'm you trying to rewind time and fix what you couldn't fix. That's not, isn't it?" I stepped closer to him. "Every time you look at me, you see her. Every time you hold me, you're pretending I'm her. Everything about this us is built on a lie. You don't love me. You love a ghost. You're wrong." "Am I? Then tell me. Tell me you didn't keep me because I reminded you of her. Tell me that's not why you showed me the penthouse on that first night. Tell me you didn't see her face when you kissed me." He didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because the truth was already hanging between us like smoke. "I fell in love with a man who was trying to collect pieces of a dead girl," I said. "And the worst part? I understood why. I understood that grief makes us do insane things, that losing someone who mattered rips holes in us we can never fill. So I was willing to be the ghost. I was willing to be the memory, because I loved you enough to be whatever you needed me to be." "Stop," he said. "No, I don't think I will. I think I'm finally going to tell the truth in this penthouse. And it's going to hurt, and you're going to have to feel it because for once, someone isn't going to make it easy for you." He moved toward me. For a second, I thought he might hurt me. But instead, he pulled me close. His hands were in my hair, his face buried in my neck, and his whole body was shaking. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. That's not an answer. I know. Did you love her, or did you just love the idea of saving her?" "Yes," he said. "Both. Neither. I don't know anymore." He pulled back and looked at me directly. "When I found you in my bed, yes, you reminded me of her, but that's not why I kept you, and that's not why I love you. Those are different things. How can you tell the difference? When you're looking at me and seeing her. Because when I look at you, you terrify me. Valentina never did. She made me feel protective. You make me feel like I'm drowning. You make me feel like I'm losing control, and I hate it, and I need it. And if I lost you, I don't think I'd come back from it." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. "The man told me to leave," I said. "He said the longer I stay, the more dangerous it becomes. That you'll eventually realize I'm not her, and get rid of me." "He's right," Lucky said. "About some of it. The danger is real. The grief is real. But the part where I get rid of you? That's the part he's wrong about. Because I've spent 8 years building walls around myself, and you came along and just smashed through them. I can't go back. I don't want to go back." He took the phone with Valentina's photo and looked at it one more time. "She was my sister. I loved her. And I failed her. That's a wound that will never heal. But you're not the salve for that wound. You're a new story. A different story. And maybe that's scarier because I don't know how it ends." He set the phone down and took both of my hands in his. "Do you want to leave?" he asked. I thought about it. Thought about running. Thought about choosing the safe option. "No," I said. "But I need you to stop looking for her in me. I need you to see me. Just me. Not the ghost. Not the replacement. Just Nara Brown, the hotel maid who made a mistake and fell asleep in the wrong bed." "I see you," he said. "I've been seeing you since the moment you woke up terrified. You're the bravest person I know, and I'm terrified that I'm going to destroy you anyway. Because that's what I do. I destroy everything I touch, everything I love." I cupped his face in my hands. His skin was warm, real. The man behind the myth, finally exposed. "Then we'll be destroyed together," I said. "Because I'm not leaving, not because I'm afraid. But because you're right, something is happening between us, and it scares me too. And I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." He kissed me again, and this time it was different. It was desperate and honest and full of all the things we couldn't say out loud. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "This won't end well," he said. "Probably not. We're going to hurt each other. Very likely. And I'm going to make you question every decision that brought you here." "I'm already questioning them," I said. "But I'm staying anyway." He held me like that for a long time, and I realized something crucial. He wasn't holding Valentina's ghost. He was holding me. Finally. Really holding me. And maybe that was the most dangerous thing of all. We lay in the dark that night, and he finally told me everything. Not the sanitized version, not the version meant for people with delicate sensibilities. The real version, the one he'd been carrying like a stone in his chest for 7 years. Valentina was supposed to marry someone, he began, his voice barely above a whisper. A man from another family. It would have united our organizations. Made us stronger. She didn't want to, but in our world, what you want doesn't matter. Duty matters. Legacy matters. I said nothing. Just listened. 3 days before the wedding, she came to me and asked me to help her escape. She wanted to run. She wanted to be normal. And I told her I would help her. That I'd get her the money, the documents, everything she needed. His hands were shaking in the dark. I was supposed to meet her that night. Supposed to bring her to a safe house, get her out of the city, start her over somewhere she'd be invisible. But I had a meeting that ran late. Some low-level business dispute that I thought I could wrap up quickly. He stopped. The silence stretched. By the time I got to the meeting spot, she was already dead. The car was totaled, bullets everywhere. They'd been waiting for her. Someone told them she was trying to run. Someone told them I'd be there too. It was an ambush. Who told them? I asked quietly. I never found out. I spent 2 years trying to find out. I killed a lot of people looking for that answer. None of them had it. So I gave up. I accepted that my sister died because someone betrayed me. Because I was careless. Because I thought I could save her and I was wrong. He rolled over to face me, and in the darkness, his eyes looked hollow. When I saw you in my bed, sleeping like you didn't have a care in the world, you looked so much like her that for a second, I thought I was hallucinating. I thought maybe I'd finally gone insane from grief. And then you woke up, terrified and rambling, and you were so alive in a way she never got to be, and I needed that. I needed to feel like I could protect something she had. Like I could rewrite the ending. But that's not what this is anymore, I said. No, he agreed. This is different now. This is real, and that's more terrifying than the grief ever was. He pulled me closer, and I felt something break open inside him, something that had been sealed shut since the moment his sister died. I love you, he said. Not because you look like her, because you're nothing like her. You're brave where she was gentle. You're here where she wanted to run. You chose this life. She was trapped in it. I wanted to believe him. I was starting to. The envelope came the next morning. I found it on the kitchen counter when I went to make coffee. No markings. Just my name on the front in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a photograph and a document. The photograph was of me, before I met Lucky, coming out of my apartment building, walking to the Roosevelt. The images spanned months. Months of surveillance I'd never known about. The document was a background check, detailed, thorough. Everything about my life, my parents, my education, my financial situation, my medical history, reduced to data points on a page. At the bottom, in handwriting I recognized as Lucky's, was a single sentence. Perfect match. Proceeding with acquisition. Acquisition. Like I was a thing to be obtained. Like I was a target in a game I didn't know I was playing. What is this? I said when I found him in his study. His face went very still. Where did you get that? It was on the kitchen counter. Lucky, what is this? He stood up slowly. I can explain. Explain what? That you stalked me? That you researched my life? That you planned this? That I'm not a mistake, I'm a project? You need to listen to me. No, you need to listen to me. My voice was shaking. You told me you love me. You told me this was real. But it was never real. I was a replacement with better paperwork. He moved toward me. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Tell me. Tell me that finding me wasn't planned. Tell me that the Roosevelt wasn't a coincidence. Tell me anything that makes this less of a calculated manipulation. He didn't answer. And his silence was answer enough. I walked backward toward the door. How long have you been following me? 6 months. And you decided I was a good fit for your ghost replacement? That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, and it sounded bitter and broken. You've been stalking me for 6 months, researching my life like I'm some kind of project, and you want to talk about fair? You're a psychopath. You know that, right? Normal people don't do this. I was protecting you, he said, and there was desperation in his voice now. Before I knew you, before you were anywhere near my world, I needed to know who you were. I needed to make sure you weren't a plant, that you weren't a spy, that you could handle being around me. By violating my privacy? By stalking me like a predator? Yes, he said simply. Because in my world, that's how you survive. You gather intelligence. You know everything about everyone around you before they know you exist. And when I found you, when I realized you were the closest thing to her I'd ever seen, I decided I wanted you in my life. So I engineered a situation that would put you there. The penthouse suddenly felt very small. Get out, I said quietly. Nara, get out. He left, closing the study door behind him, and I stood in his kitchen holding a background check on my own life, realizing that every moment with him had been choreographed. Every chance encounter was planned. Every decision to stay was made before I even knew he existed. I packed a bag at 2 a.m. while he was on a meeting call in the study. Minimal, essential, enough to get me somewhere safe for long enough to figure out what came next. I left the designer dresses hanging in the closet, left the jewels on the bathroom counter, left behind everything that proved I'd ever been his. The penthouse elevator took forever to arrive. When it finally did, I thought I was safe. I was wrong. The lobby was empty. That should have been my first warning. The Roosevelt lobby at 2 a.m. should have had at least the night staff, the security guard, someone. But it was a ghost town. The black car was waiting outside. Different driver, someone I didn't recognize. Mr. Luciano sent me, the man said, stepping out. I'm not going back, I said. I'm not here to take you back. He pulled a gun. Not threatening. Just showing it to me like he was showing me his ID. You're coming with me. I ran. I've never been a runner. I've never been athletic. But survival is a motivator that transcends physical limitation. I ran across the lobby, through the back corridors I'd cleaned 1,000 times, toward the service exit that led to the street. The man was faster. He grabbed me from behind, pulling me toward the underground parking garage. I screamed, and his hand came over my mouth. I bit down hard enough to taste blood. He howled and released me. I ran deeper into the garage, toward the street, toward anywhere that wasn't the direction he was coming from. A car appeared. I thought I was finished. But the window rolled down and I saw someone I recognized, one of Lucky's crew. One of the men I'd seen at the penthouse. Get in, he said. I hesitated. He was part of Lucky's world, which meant he was part of the trap. Get in, or get shot, he said, and there was something in his eyes that suggested he meant it. Your choice, but make it fast. I got in. He drove me to an apartment in Queens, my old apartment, the one I'd left behind when I moved into the penthouse. Why? I asked as we pulled up. Because there's a war coming, he said. And you're ground zero. Lucky's enemies know you matter to him. They're going to come at you. We need to get you somewhere they won't think to look. Who sent you? Doesn't matter. What matters is you're not safe anywhere near him right now. He left me there with a burner phone, and instructions. Don't contact him. Don't contact anyone. We'll be in touch. I stood in my old apartment, breathing hard, trying to process what was happening. That's when I saw it. The smell came first. Then the flickering light under the door. Then the realization that my apartment wasn't just my apartment anymore. It was burning. I ran to the window and saw figures in the street below, men with torches, moving systematically from building to building. This wasn't random. This was orchestrated. Someone was destroying the traces of my life. The piano key necklace, the one Lucky had given me, the only piece of him I'd kept when I ran, was still on the nightstand. I grabbed it and ran. The stairwell was filling with smoke. I took the fire escape and jumped the last 10 feet, landing hard on the pavement. Around me the neighborhood was waking up. People were calling 911. Sirens were beginning to wail. I disappeared into the crowd, and nobody noticed me. Nobody noticed one more person running from a fire that was systematically erasing me from the world. I spent 3 days in a motel in Jersey City, using the last cash I had. The news covered the Queens fires. 6 apartments destroyed. No deaths, thank God, but investigators baffled by the coordinated nature of the attacks. They weren't talking about Mafia. They were talking about gang activity, possible gang retribution, gang violence, gang. But I knew better. This was targeted. This was personal. This was someone sending a message. You don't exist anymore. Every trace of you is being burned away. The burner phone rang on the 3rd day. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway because I was tired and scared, and the alternative was to keep running forever. Where are you? It was Lucky. He sounded like he'd been awake for days, like he'd been slowly losing his mind. Somewhere safe. You're not safe anywhere. Nara, listen to me. Someone in my organization, someone close to me, they're using you to get to me. They're trying to prove I'm compromised. That my attachment to you is a weakness they can exploit. You are compromised, I said. You stalked me, you researched me, you orchestrated me into your life. Yes, and I'm telling you I was right to be paranoid because now people I trusted are burning down your entire life to prove a point. I looked down at the piano key necklace in my hand, the one piece of him I'd managed to save from the fire. Who? I asked. My right hand. A man named Victor. I brought him in when he was 17. Raised him like he was family. He's been waiting for an excuse to make a move against me. And you gave him one. How did I give him anything? I didn't know he existed until you just said his name. By mattering to me. By being something I actually cared about. He saw an opening and he took it. I heard the sound of a gunshot through the phone. Then silence. Lucky. I'm fine, he said, breathing hard. I just took care of a loose end. But there are more. There are always more. And they're looking for you. Which means I need to know. Are you running from me or running from them? Both, I said. I'm running from all of this. I want to go back to cleaning hotel rooms and not existing. I want to be invisible again. You can't be invisible, he said. Not anymore. You've been marked. By being with me, you've become important. Which means you're either going to be used as leverage against me, or you're going to have to trust me to keep you safe. How can I trust you? You lied to me. You stalked me. You planned every moment of our relationship. I know, he said. And I'm sorry. But that's not going to matter in about 6 hours when Victor's men figure out where you are. So, I need you to decide right now. Do you let me save you, or do you die alone in a Jersey motel with nothing but a piano key and the memory of a man who loved you? I looked at the necklace, looked at the generic motel room, looked at my entire life reduced to a duffel bag and a burner phone. Where are you? I asked. Coming to get you. Give me your location. I gave him the address. And as I waited for him to arrive, I realized something crucial. I'd never had a choice. From the moment I fell asleep in his bed, my life had been orchestrated by forces much larger than myself. The only choice I'd ever actually had was this one. Stay alone and die, or go back to him and fight. Not much of a choice. Victor's men arrived 5 minutes before Lucky did. 3 of them. Guns drawn. Professional. The kind of men who'd done this before and would do it again without feeling anything. You're coming with us, the leader said. I stood very still. And if I refuse? You don't get to refuse. The door exploded inward. Lucky came through like a force of nature. He was covered in blood, some of it his, most of it not. He looked like he'd already fought his way through half the city to get to me. What followed was 3 minutes of violence so precise and terrible that I couldn't even track who was winning. Lucky moved between the men with lethal efficiency, a knife in the shoulder, a broken arm. A throat strike that left one man gasping on the floor. When it was over, all 3 were on the ground. One was dead. The other 2 were alive but not in any condition to continue pursuing me. We have to go, Lucky said, grabbing my hand. Is it over? I asked, as he pulled me toward the door. No, it's just beginning. We drove through the night. He explained the situation in clipped sentences while keeping his eyes on the road. Victor had been planning a move against him for years. I was just the catalyst. By taking me, by making me matter, I'd shown Victor exactly where to apply pressure. So what now? I asked. Now I end it. He drove me to a safe house, one of many scattered throughout the city. A nondescript apartment in Brooklyn that looked like it belonged to nobody important. Stay here, he said. There's food, there's water, there's a bed, you're safe. And you? I'm going to deal with Victor. I'm going to end this war before it consumes us both. How long? As long as it takes. He kissed me then, and it tasted like goodbye. Like he was accepting that this might be the last time we touched. Like he was bracing himself for whatever came next. If anything happens, I started. Nothing's going to happen, he said. I'm going to come back. I'm going to find you. And we're going to figure this out. But his eyes said something different. His eyes said, I might not survive this, and if I don't, you need to let me go. He came back 3 days later, alone, covered in blood, and with an envelope in his hand. It's over, he said. Victor's gone, his crew is gone, the war is finished. And you? I asked, examining the wound on his shoulder. I'm alive, barely, but alive. I started to move toward him, but he stopped me. I need to tell you something, he said, and his voice was hollow. And I need you to listen without interrupting. He opened the envelope and showed me documents. Passports, visas, bank accounts in different names, money, real money, enough to disappear forever. "What is this?" I asked. "A way out," he said. "For you. A completely clean exit from this life. A new name, a new identity, a new country where nobody knows who you are or who I am. You can have the life you want, the one Valentina wanted, the one where you don't have to be afraid all the time." "Lucky, let me finish. I know you love me, and I know I love you. But love isn't enough in my world. Love just makes you a liability. It makes you a target, and I can't keep you safe. Not really, not permanently. Every day you stay, you're in danger. Every moment you're with me, someone is plotting how to use you against me." He set the documents on the table between us. "I'm giving you a choice, a real one this time, not one I orchestrated, not one I planned. A genuine choice. You can leave. You can take this money, this identity, these documents, and you can go build a life that doesn't involve blood and violence and fear. You can be happy. You can be safe. You can be free. Or," I asked, "or you can stay. You can accept that this is what your life is now. You can accept that loving me means accepting that danger is part of the deal. That loss is part of the deal. That I'm broken and I'm bleeding and I'm never going to be the kind of man who can offer you a normal life." He moved closer. His hand found my face. "So I'm asking you to choose, not for me, for you. What do you actually want?" The question hung in the air like smoke. I picked up the documents, felt their weight, thought about what it would mean to disappear, to become nobody, to start over without the ghost of Valentina following me, without the violence, without the fear, and then I put them down. "I want to stay," I said. "Not because I'm afraid of leaving, but because I love you. And love means choosing the mess. It means accepting that nothing is guaranteed except this moment. And I'd rather have moments with you than a lifetime of safety without you." He held me like I might disappear if he let go. "You're going to regret this," he said. "Probably," I agreed. "But it's my choice. Finally, actually, genuinely, my choice." Weeks later, the penthouse had been rebuilt, the bullet holes patched, the shattered glass replaced. Life had continued like it does, when you have enough money to make violence disappear. I woke up in his bed, the same bed, the one where all of this started, the one that had been both refuge and trap. My eyes were closed. I could feel morning light on my face, could hear the city beginning to wake below us, could feel Lucky's arm across my waist, solid, real, present. "I know you're awake," he said softly. I opened one eye and looked at him. He was watching me like I might vanish. Like after everything, the betrayal, the fire, the war, he still expected me to disappear. "Your bed is dangerous," I said. He smiled. It was small and tired but genuine. "Only if you leave it." "I'm not leaving." "I know." He pulled me closer, and I realized something important. This was the moment. Not the beginning. Not the dramatic rescue. This quiet moment where we were just two broken people who'd chosen each other anyway. "I'm sorry," he said. "For all of it. The stalking, the lies, the war I dragged you into." "I know," I said. "And I'm sorry too. For running, for making it complicated. It was always going to be complicated. I know." We lay there as the sun climbed higher, as Manhattan woke up, as millions of people went about their lives without any idea of the quiet miracle happening in a penthouse above their heads. Two people who should never have met, who'd been brought together by obsession and grief and calculated manipulation, had somehow found something real, something worth fighting for. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we figure it out," he said. "Together. No more secrets, no more lies. No more stalking?" "Probably some stalking," he admitted. "It's a habit." I laughed, really laughed, and it felt like the first genuine laugh since I'd fallen asleep in his bed weeks ago. "I love you," I said. "Even though you're a criminal and a psychopath and you orchestrated our entire relationship. I love you," he said. "Even though you're reckless and brave and you've completely destroyed my carefully constructed world." He kissed me, and it wasn't desperate or frantic. It was slow and deep and full of all the promises we'd never be able to keep, but would spend the rest of our lives trying anyway. Outside, the city glittered. Inside, in the dark of the bedroom, two people who'd been broken by loss and defined by violence chose to build something that looked almost like hope. The poor hotel maid had closed her eyes in a mafia boss's bed. And when she opened them, she found something she never knew she was looking for: a reason to stay.